At my birthday dinner, Mom whispered to Dad. While everyone's here, tell your son to go change the locks at her apartment. My brother nodded and left for an hour. He came back paler than the tablecloth and whispered, Mom, there. My name is Lauren Reeves, I'm 29. And if you think this ends with cake and candles, stay tuned. It was supposed to be a peaceful dinner. A rare truce. My parents, my brother Nathan, his wife, a few relatives, all gathered around a restaurant table I'd paid for. I told myself maybe this year would be different. Maybe Mom would remember it wasn't Nathan's world and I wasn't a guest in my own life. But she did what she always does. Turn my celebration into a strategy meeting. I'd caught her whisper, her words slicing through clinking silverware and fake laughter. Change her locks, she said as if I wasn't sitting right there. Dad didn't hesitate. He never does. Do it after dessert, he muttered. I didn't react. I just smiled, cut another piece of cake and watched my brother leave, car keys jingling like a warning. An hour later, when Nathan returned, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. Mom noticed instantly. Well, did you do it? He swallowed hard. Mom, there's police tape around her door. Every fork froze midair. Dad frowned. What kind of joke is that? Nathan shook his head, voice shaking. It's not a joke. There's an officer standing outside the apartment. He said no one's allowed in. There was an incident. The air in the room changed, cold, sharp, electric. Mom's face drained of color. What incident? She demanded. But before Nathan could answer, my phone buzzed on the table. An unknown number flashing with a message that made my blood run cold. The message on my phone read, Ms. Reeves, this is Officer Grant from Portland PD. Please contact us immediately regarding your apartment. The room fell silent as I stood, chair legs screeching against the floor. Mom's voice quivered. Lauren, what's going on? I didn't answer. I just grabbed my purse, ignoring the chorus of questions trailing behind me. Outside, the night air felt like glass against my skin. My car keys shook in my hand, but my mind was razor clear. If there was police tape at my home, then something was very wrong. By the time I reached my apartment complex, 2 patrol cars were still parked outside, their lights painting red and blue shadows across the brick walls. A uniformed officer stepped forward. Ms. Reeves. I nodded. What happened? He glanced at his clipboard. You're the tenant, correct? We received a report of a break-in. Your door was forced open, but nothing appears stolen. We've sealed the scene for investigation. I blinked. A break-in? Who? He raised a hand gently. We're reviewing footage. Do you have any idea who might have access to your keys? I stared at him for a moment, then exhaled slowly. My brother. Nathan Reeves. The officer's pen froze midair. And, why would your brother break into your apartment? I hesitated, the truth heavy on my tongue. Because my mother told him to. He looked up sharply. Can you repeat that? I nodded, steady now. She asked him to change my locks tonight without my consent. I think he found something he wasn't supposed to. His radio crackled before I could say more. A voice came through. We've got a match on the prints inside, sending ID to command. The officer's expression changed instantly, surprise then unease. Ms. Reeves, he said slowly, you might want to sit down for this. I sat on the curb outside my apartment complex, the cold seeping through my dress. Officer Grant crouched beside me, his expression cautious but firm. Ms. Reeves, he said, glancing at his tablet, the prints inside your apartment don't belong to your brother, or to you. I frowned. Then whose? He turned the screen toward me. A man named Thomas Hale. Does that name mean anything to you? My breath caught. Thomas was my landlord's nephew. He handled maintenance. Grant nodded. He's currently in custody. We found surveillance footage. He broke into your apartment last night using a key copy. He's been under investigation for a series of unlawful entries across the complex. My stomach twisted. What was he doing inside? Grant hesitated. You may want to see this yourself. He led me to the stairwell, the faint smell of dust and old paint heavy in the air. My door stood half open, the lock splintered. Inside, the apartment looked almost untouched, except for the photos. Every framed picture of me and Liam, my son, had been flipped face down. On the coffee table lay a single envelope. Grant gestured toward it. That was on the couch when we arrived. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a printed message. Tell your mother the truth always finds its way home. My throat went dry. This doesn't make sense, I whispered. Grant looked at me steadily. We're running forensics on the letter. Do you have any idea what this might mean? I stared at the words again, the letters perfectly aligned, printed from a household printer. But the phrasing, tell your mother, hit too directly. I stepped back, heart pounding. He wasn't breaking in to steal anything. He was delivering something. Grant frowned. Delivering what? I swallowed hard. A message meant for her, not me. And suddenly my mother's strange panic at dinner didn't feel like control. It felt like fear. The next morning I woke to 3 missed calls from my mother. And 1 from an unknown number. Officer Grant's voicemail played first. Ms. Reeves, we've confirmed that Thomas Hale was paid by an anonymous bank transfer last week, traced back to an account under your mother's name. For a moment I couldn't move. The air in my apartment thickened, pressing against my chest. My mother had hired the man who broke into my home. I called Grant immediately. You're sure? Yes, he said, voice steady. The payment was for maintenance services. But given the timing and the note we found, it looks deliberate. We believe your mother may have been trying to retrieve something. I laughed bitterly. Retrieve what? I own nothing she can't already manipulate. Then I froze. The attic box. The one labeled Dad's business papers, which I'd found last month while cleaning. Inside were property deeds, signed by both of them but never declared in taxes. I hadn't mentioned it to anyone. Grant's tone sharpened. Ms. Reeves, does your family have any history of financial disputes? History? I whispered. My mother's made a career out of them. Within the hour I was back at the station. The evidence folder on the table held photos of the letter, the broken door and the transaction records. Grant slid them toward me. Would you like to file charges against your mother? I hesitated. The word mother still felt sacred, but the woman it described didn't. Not yet, I said. I want to know what she was so desperate to hide first. He nodded. Then you'll need to talk to her, carefully. That evening I texted her. Dinner. My place. 7 p.m. No games this time. Her reply came within seconds. Fine. But I hope you're ready for the truth. For the first time in my life I actually was. By 7 o'clock sharp the knock came, light, calculated, like everything she did. My mother stood at my door dressed immaculately, as if she were meeting a client, not the daughter whose home she tried to have broken into. Lauren, she said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Her perfume hit first, familiar, expensive, suffocating. You shouldn't have involved the police. I folded my arms. You shouldn't have sent a criminal into my apartment. Her lips tightened. Watch your tone. You don't understand what's going on. Then explain it, I said, motioning toward the couch. She sat, crossing her legs with precision. Your father's business dealings weren't simple. Those papers you found, they don't belong to you. Thomas was supposed to retrieve them quietly before you did something stupid. I stared at her, stunned. You hired someone to break in rather than talk to me? Her voice softened in that manipulative way she'd perfected. I was protecting you. There are things you don't need to know. Mom, I said flatly, you've been protecting lies, not me. Her mask slipped then. You think you're smarter than us, Lauren? You have no idea what those documents could expose. Your father could lose everything. I let the silence stretch, then pulled out my phone, tapping the record button. You mean the undeclared properties? The offshore accounts listed under my social security number. Her eyes widened. What have you done? I learned how to stop being your pawn. She stood abruptly. You wouldn't dare ruin this family. I met her glare evenly. You already did, Mom. The only difference is, I'm not covering for it anymore. Her face hardened into something cold and unfamiliar. You'll regret this. I smiled faintly. Maybe. But at least it'll be my regret. Outside, thunder rolled, like the world itself agreed. The storm outside grew heavier, lightning flashing against the windows as if the sky itself wanted to witness what came next. My mother paced in front of me, her heels clicking on the floor, every sound sharp as a blade. You don't understand what's at stake, Lauren, she hissed. If those documents go public, your father could face prison time. The entire family's reputation was already destroyed, I cut in. When you put my name on fake property deeds to hide your assets. Her face went still. The silence that followed was deafening. I found everything, I continued. Transfers under my ID. Signatures that aren't mine. Even emails to Thomas. You didn't just drag me into your lies, Mom. You built them on me. For the first time her voice cracked. You were supposed to trust us. I did. For 29 years. And all it got me was debt, therapy, and a lock changed by your son. She flinched. You wouldn't go to the police. You're not that cruel. I looked her dead in the eyes. You broke into my home, forged my name, and put my child at risk. What would you call that? Her shoulders slumped for the first time, a glimpse of the woman beneath the armor. We did it to protect the family, she whispered. No, I said softly. You did it to protect your image. When she finally turned to leave, she hesitated by the door. If you go through with this, she said, you'll never have a family again. I met her gaze steadily. Then maybe it's time I build one worth having. The door closed behind her with a final hollow sound. Thunder rolled again, but this time it didn't scare me. It sounded like applause. Tomorrow the documents would go to the investigator. And the truth, my truth, would finally belong to me. The next morning I drove straight to the Financial Crimes Division, a folder of evidence on the passenger seat beside me. The rain had cleared, leaving the streets slick and shining, reflections of everything I was finally facing head-on. Officer Grant met me in the lobby. You're sure about this? He asked quietly. I'm done being their cover story, I said, handing him the file. Inside were the deeds, the wire confirmations, and screenshots of every message that proved my mother and father had used my identity to hide money from federal audits. Years of deception condensed into neat paper stacks. He flipped through the documents, nodding slowly. This is airtight. Once this goes through, they'll open a full investigation. You'll be cleared of all liability. I exhaled, the weight in my chest finally loosening. Good. I've spent too long carrying their mistakes. That afternoon, I turned off my phone and drove to the hospital to pick up Liam from a follow-up appointment. He came running into my arms, holding a sticker the nurse had given him. Mom, I got a gold star. I laughed, kneeling to hug him. So did I, baby. You just can't see mine yet. When we got home, I opened my laptop and typed one final email, to my mother. The files have been turned in. Please stop contacting me. If you need a lawyer, I recommend the same one who told me to protect myself. Then I hit send and closed the laptop. No trembling. No guilt. Just clean silence. That night, while Liam slept, I stood by the window watching city lights flicker like a pulse returning to life. They'd built a world on lies. I'd learned to live without them. And that, finally, felt like justice. A month later, the investigation became public. News outlets ran headlines like "Local Couple Under Federal Review for Identity Fraud, Daughter Reported as Victim." I didn't watch the coverage, I didn't need to. I'd already lived the headline. The bank seized their hidden accounts. My father resigned from his company in disgrace. My mother stopped calling, not out of respect but out of shame. For once, silence from her wasn't punishment. It was peace. Officer Grant called to update me. The case will go to court soon. You've been cleared entirely. You did the right thing, Ms. Reeves. I thanked him, then looked at Liam playing on the floor, his toy cars lined up in perfect rows. He didn't know the details, but he knew what mattered, that his mother wasn't afraid anymore. That night, I hosted a small dinner at home, just a few friends who'd stood by me through everything. We toasted not to revenge but to freedom. To starting over, said my friend Nina. I smiled. And to never apologizing for protecting yourself. After everyone left, I tucked Liam into bed and stood for a long moment by the window. The city lights below looked softer now, like forgiveness spread across glass. I thought of my parents, not with anger but with clarity. They taught me the most brutal lesson. Love without boundaries becomes a weapon. The next morning, I mailed a single envelope to the district attorney's office. The last missing document linking their offshore account. No note, no explanation. Just truth. When I sealed it, I whispered, "This ends here." Then I turned to Liam, smiling. "Ready for breakfast, champ?" He grinned. "Can we have pancakes?" "Always," I said. And just like that, life moved forward. Simple, steady, mine again.